pressure for the prelims must be getting on to you now. Not too much time left here and you must be busy revising your notes, running to classes, and maybe some of you have joined some test series also. But one thing you have to be very careful about is your performance in the prelim examination is not always about how much you know. Yes, the knowledge is very important. You have to expand your width as much as possible. But your actual success will depend on many more things. And one important aspect of preparation is knowing the art of which question to answer and how to pick up the right choice. Because if you have 100 questions and you have not attempted enough number of questions trying to play it safe, then I think you are in trouble. And I have been speaking to some students for some time. Most agree that you have to attempt around 85 to 90 questions before you actually get ready for the examination. So this video is about a quick step-by-step approach, how you can actually practice questions in a more scientific way, and more importantly, how you can analyze your performance, learn from the tests, and also make sure that you perfect the art of guessing answers from the questions which otherwise you may not be very sure about. So here we go. So here are the steps that you need to go through so that you can very objectively and very consciously prepare how to prepare and get ready for the prelim examination. So I'll list down the steps for you one by one and see if that helps you practice and get ready for the examination. So the steps to prepare and get ready. Number one, please sit down formally. You're supposed to formally sit and appear for the test. Most of the students, they do not sit down to do this very consciously. Many of you simply have a textbook. You probably open the textbook, see some questions, do some ticking, marking, sit down and look for the answers. So this is not how you actually give your test. When you give your test, sit down on a table, formally take a pen, pencil, OMR sheet and the question paper and give your test. The second step is decide how many questions you want to give your test for. It could be a 100 question list. It could be a 50 question list. Even at 25, 30 question list will do. A 100 question list probably, okay, you can get ready for around 2 hours. A 50 question list could be for 1 hour. 25, 30 question list, you could even appear for half an hour. But make sure you have a proper plan and a conscious decision what number of questions you are going to practice for. Third, very importantly, please practice marking and darkening a proper OMR sheet. For example, this is your OMR sheet. I would expect that you take some pains, you do take some efforts to fill up the form like you would fill up in the examination hall. So what you can do is, before you start the paper, you could have some random roll numbers. You could have some random center code. You could have some random test code or batch code. So fill up some of these random details and of course your name. Make sure you practice filling in your name very consciously. So these could be random, but make sure you are actually practicing it to fill up your name. So you could actually write your name the way you spell your name, use a proper black pen or a blue pen as instructions are given to you in the examination. Then sit down and darken the bubbles very consciously. So what this does is, it kind of sets your hand to fill up the actual name in the exam conditions. So you are filling up your name. So you do this. So you have SHA, you have B, you fill up I, and you have R. So you fill up your proper name so that you get used to as a kind of developing a kind of motor memory for yourself. So very consciously make sure that you fill up your OMR sheet. Thereafter, you sit down and actually solve the paper. Now in solving the paper, you should remember 2 or 3 things. Number one, do not attempt the questions sequentially. What I mean by this is, don't answer one question after another in the sequence given to you in the question set. It's not necessary that you should first solve one and then go to a question number 2 and then go to a question number 3. No, keep the attempt a bit more random. You must have a sense of priority which questions to answer first and which not to answer first. Say, for example, if you are seeing my screen, I'm taking up one of the question sets I give to you in the gear up set. So this is the set of questions. Gear up test number 13 is what I'm helping you with. Say I see this question seems a bit too long. This question seems to be a bit too long. It might take me a bit more of time. So I search which question I want to answer. I search. Now, this question looks pretty short to me. So I can answer this very rapidly. I can read action plan for drug demand reduction is introduced by, so I make some guesses. If I know the answer perfectly, fine. Say I think it is, very confidently I mark a particular choice. Say I mark, okay, Niti Aayog is the right choice. So I mark A here. I go back to the OMR sheet and question number 9. I very consciously mark it is A. Then I go back to the question set again. So once I've marked 9 confidently, I write down C here, as in I've marked the question very confidently. I do not need to check this. So I will strike this question off. Then I look for, oh, this looks like a small question again. So I read question number 13. Maybe I rule out A, I rule out D. I'm trapped between the two and I mark a C. And again, I say, this is a smart choice. I directly go towards the OMR sheet, and this time I mark a C, and I've mentioned that it is a smart guess for 13. So the point here is, you, while solving the questions, please do not solve the questions sequentially one after another. Look for which questions you can answer first, which questions take more time, and which questions you are better off leaving entirely. And as you keep on marking, you should also be striking off the questions. Like if you have seen, okay, I struck off this question. Similarly, having answered this as a smart guess, I strike this question off. And maybe I want to come back and cross-check this question later. So I could perhaps encircle this so that when I have a few minutes toward the end, I want to come back and check this question for accuracy. So what this does is that when I'm quickly revising the paper, I will not lose time. So then I can go towards the second level of questions. Like say, the second level of questions is again not as long. Say in this list, I find this is a very long question. There are 3 sentences, long sentences. They might take more time. Whereas this question is relatively shorter. 1 sentence and there are 4 statements. So I can quickly read through them, and I have again tried to eliminate this. I have marked this, and this is confident choice. I strike this off. I read this, I find this again is a very, very long sentence, will consume time. So I again go to the next question. I come back here and I find a relatively shorter one is probably here. So which of the following states, the first to have a water policy? I know the answer very confidently. I mark Maharashtra. I say confident and I strike this off. And as you mark, you should directly come and start marking on the OMR sheet directly. What mistakes students make is they do all the writing of the choices in the rough first, and then towards the end, they fill up all the bubbles at one go. So at one go 16A, at one go 17B, at one go 18A. The problem with this type of marking is if you make a mistake of missing any one question, you run the risk of making mistakes and marking all the answers thereafter. So if you look at this list here, so you should actually solve the paper, but do not attempt the questions sequentially and have a sense of priority. And very important next step is, while you're answering, make sure that you also mark whether you have marked the question confidently, whether you have marked the question as a part of a smart guess. And some of you might even risk an answer with a blind guess. It's possible where you do not know any answer. So think of probably this question. I have no clue about the answer, but I want to take a blind guess. I do not know why. I think this is right, and I do a blind guess and strike this off. So in that case, on the question itself, you'll mention that it's a blind guess, and you'll come back and check later on whether your question was marked rightly or wrong. So have this type of classification for the question. And the fourth very important thing I said is, as you mark, you also should strike off the question, or you should encircle a question if you want to cross-check that particular question sometime later. I repeat the steps. First, sit down to give your practice tests very formally. Okay. Let the tests not be given in a non-serious mood. Decide how many questions you want to answer and make sure you fix the time limit very appropriately. Practice on an OMR sheet, not randomly picking up and reading questions. Take a proper OMR sheet and practice on it. And while solving the questions, make sure that you do not answer the questions sequentially. Learn to skip questions. Learn to pick up questions which are easily solvable earlier, and avoid questions which are lengthy and you might make a mistake. So that way you should have priority in the questions that you answer. And very importantly, while you answer on the question paper, also mark which questions you have marked confidently, which questions you have attempted after a smart guess by elimination, and which questions you might go for blind guess. It's always better that you do not go for too many blind guesses. But the human nature that we have, couple of questions ultimately will go into blind guesses also. And while you are solving, make it a habit that you also strike off the question that you have solved, and where possible, you want to come back and check, encircle it, so that towards the end of the paper, you have some time left. In that case, you come back and cross-check some of your choices. After having solved everything, the next step is, please check your scores. Give yourself whatever marks you want to give. Okay, so you maybe have scored maybe 70 out of 100, okay, or maybe 60, 50 out of 100, whatever score. But honestly speaking, this score is not of much consequence. Most students check the scores and move on. Actually, this is the least important. The more important step that you have to get into is, now you need to analyze your scores. In the classes, and all my students will vouch for this, I repeatedly talk about this step of analyzing your scores. Without analyzing, it makes no difference regarding what you have learned. You're not able to translate your new learnings into getting your scores better. So in the analysis of your scores, what you should do is, you should make an analysis table for yourself. The analysis table will have columns. This is which are the questions you have marked correctly and which are the questions you have got wrong. This is those questions which you answered confidently. These are the smart guesses and these are the blind guesses. So now you have to look through your scores one by one and then put the relevant questions in the boxes. So it's possible, confidently you had attempted, say, 20 questions, out of which maybe you have got 17 correct and you have got 3 mistakes. Smart guesses, you probably have attempted 30 of them. You may have got around, say, 15 correct and 15 wrong. Blind guesses, you might have gone for 7 of them, and maybe you have got 3 correct and you have got 4 wrong. Now, this analysis is very important. Why? Because it tells you how you are programming yourself to get ready for improving your scores in the future. Like in this analysis, this is the most dangerous part of your attempts. You thought you are marking a question confidently, but you actually have got 3 answers wrong, which implies that these 3 answers, either you have conceptual mistakes or you have made some silly mistakes, both of which have to be avoided. And if possible, also note which type of questions you make more silly mistakes on. Some of us have a tendency to make silly mistakes in economy questions. We have tendencies to make silly mistakes probably in polity questions because we're overconfident. So find out which area of a GS you are more vulnerable to make silly mistakes. Now, in your examination, guesses are very, very important. If you are playing safe, there is no chance you can ever qualify. Out of 100 questions they ask you, perhaps just about 15 to 20 questions you can answer confidently. And if you are attempting around 80 questions, you are bound to have 60 to 70 questions marked as smart guesses, or some of them could be blind guesses. So this analysis is very important. Most of us, they get very discouraged by seeing that they have got too many questions wrong here. While they have got 18 questions right, I've got 19 questions wrong. And these wrong questions probably pull down my marks. But my argument is that if you had not taken chance on these 15, you would not have got these 15 right either. Look at the net score here. The net score is you have scored 15 correctly and you have scored 15 wrong. The 15 wrong, you are losing 1/3, but you still have a net gain of about 10 questions in this case. Because 15 by 3 is 5, minus 15 minus 5, 10 question is your net gain. As far as possible, you should try to convert these into confident ones. And similarly, look at your blind guesses. In the blind guesses, even if you get 1 as an additional mark, you are doing better. Our experience tells us that you should be trying to, your attempts in the examination should not be less than 85 to 90 questions out of 100. If you attempt less than 85, 80, it becomes very, very tough. And honestly speaking, if your attempts are anything less than 70 or less than 75, you can safely assume you will not qualify, because you're bound to make mistakes in this, and given the type of questions you have, you will lose out. So you'll have to train yourself to answer 85 to 90 attempts. And in this case, you have to perfect the art of guessing the answers also. So this type of an analysis of a score is very important. And after analysis of your score, now what you must do is, you must now note the new learnings from your test. So take a blank sheet. You take a blank sheet. You probably can divide the blank sheet into 3 columns or 2 columns. Say this was the quality test. Whatever you have numbered your question paper as the question number, paper number 15, or the gear up question number 13. And whatever you have learned from the analysis, you search the answers. You should search answers again. And whatever you learn, you write down as information here. So 1 information here, 2nd information here, 3rd information here, 4th. So you jot down all information. Okay. And this is your learning from the test that you have given. The objective of doing this is that anytime in the future, if you are administered the same set of questions, you should get all the questions correctly. So the learnings you have from the test is a kind of an information bank for yourself. The learnings you have is a kind of new knowledge you have acquired from the test. Doing this, if you have approximately 100 questions, analyzing the questions and jotting down, this could take anything between 4 to 6 hours. Then we say your learning from the 100 questions is perfect. So do not simply take a question and start solving it. Solve it, yes, but more importantly, try learning whatever you can from the questions that you have attempted. This way, you'll be able to use the questions to build up your information base. And very importantly, you'll also learn how your mind works in guessing the questions. You'll also learn what type of silly mistakes you make when you attempt. You will start learning, you'll also learn which questions to attempt and which questions not to attempt. You should not be attempting all questions randomly. You'll have a pattern in how you pick up questions and solve. If you follow this method for close to around 30 to 40 tests, you slowly, gradually will build up in confidence and answer better.
So that was about telling you the steps to how to prepare, and more importantly, how to attempt questions, how to use an OMR sheet, and how to ensure that you strike out the questions you already have attempted. So please try this, it will help you. And before I wind up, a quick short quote to help you get motivated. It says, "You have failed many times, although you may not remember. You fell down the first time you tried to walk. You almost drowned the first time you tried to swim, didn't you? Did you hit the ball the first time you swung the bat? So don't worry, get on with your game. You will learn and you will win." And quoting what Abraham Lincoln once said when he lost one of the elections, he says, "The path was worn and slippery. My foot slipped from under me, knocking the other out of the way. And I recovered, but said to myself, it is a slip and not a fail." So keep this in mind. This is just one of the examinations you want to aspire and work towards. You might slip, that's okay. You might forget things, that's okay. But keep on trying. All the best. I'll catch you again in more videos. Bye.